Rules of exponents. This is the fifth rule. What do we do with a negative exponent? So in other words, if you had, say, 2 to the negative 1 power, what is that? And, well, I know it's 1/2. If you had x to the negative 3rd power, that would be 1 over x cubed. And the rule in a textbook generally looks like this. If you have x to the negative mth power, it's 1 over x to the mth power, positive. So that's generally what the rule is. But what does it mean, and why do we reciprocate it and change it to a positive? I mean, what's the reason behind that? And it comes from, if you think back to your second rule of exponents, I kind of mentioned that. And so if you have, say, x to the 3rd power divided by x to the 8th power, for instance. If you use the second rule of exponents, which tells you to subtract the exponents when you divide by the same base, we'd have x to the 3 minus 8, which is x to the negative 5th. Okay? Well, we don't usually want to leave that like it is. So another way to look at this is x to the 3rd power is xxx, and x to the 8th power is 8 of them. I think I've got them all there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you notice what happens here, well, x divided by x that's 1, that's 1, and that's 1. Well, you have 5 x's on the bottom, and all the x's canceled, but there's always a 1 out front, and so it would still be 1. So 1 over x to the 5th. So that's another way to show it to you. And so let's take it to the next level. What happens when you have something that's a lot more complicated? Maybe 3x to the 5th, y to the negative 2nd, z to the 0 over 27 x to the negative squared, y to the 4th, z to the negative 8th. So let's say we had something really wild and crazy like this. So go ahead and stop the video and see if you can simplify it. I mean, this is a little bit more advanced, or just watch me do it. So the first step here is I get rid of anything that's obvious. So z to the 0, we already know by my 4th rule that that's 1. So that becomes the number 1. Okay, 3 and 27, you can go ahead and reduce that. That's 1 and 9. And so far, so I don't get too far ahead of myself, let's just rewrite what we have. So you'd have x to the 5th, y to the negative 2nd, because the 1's would be times 1, over 9, x to the negative 2nd, y to the 4th, z to the negative 8th. Okay, now let's deal with these negative exponents. Well, we reciprocate them anytime there's a negative exponent. So this x squared is going to move up, this y squared is going to move down, and this z to the 8th is going to move up. So you'd have x to the 5th, x squared, because we moved this one up. The y squared is going to move down with the 9, so you got 9y squared. And there's already a y to the 4th down there. So that's moving this one down. And then z to the 8th is going to go up, so it's up there. And then you just go ahead and simplify what you have. So x to the 5th times x squared. If you use your first rules of exponents, that means we have x to the 7th. Z to the 8th just stays like it is. And then y squared and y to the 4th would be y to the 6th. So 9y to the 6th. And so there's one way to look at it. Another one that trips people up is what happens if you had, say, 1/3 to the negative squared power, so to the negative 2 power. What do we do with that one? So stop the video and see if you can solve it. So what you do is the negative 2 goes with everything inside the parentheses. So you'd have really technically 1 to the negative 2 over 3 to the negative 2. Well, that would flip it. So the 1 to the negative 2 would go down, 3 to the negative 2 would go up, so you've got 3 squared over 1 squared, which is just 1, and 3 squared we know is 9. So 1/3 to the negative 2 power is simply 9. And that, for the most part, is negative exponents. I mean, there's more to it, I guess. There's more examples and more complicated examples. But if you just know that whenever you have a negative exponent, it moves down, you should be good to go. I'll leave you with one last one. So let's say you had 2 times x to the negative third. Okay, in this case, the only thing that moves down is the x. So your answer would be 2x to the positive third. 2 over x to the positive third. So there's 2x to the negative third simplified. So you want to be careful that you don't bring the 2 with it, because the negative 3 doesn't go. Now, it would have been a lot different if I would have done this to you and said it's 2x to the negative third. Now the negative third goes with both the 2 and the x, and so that would be 1 over 2 to the third is 8x to the third. So that negative moves both of them down in that case. So again, I would definitely look up more videos on this if you're still struggling. Take a look at how other math teachers deal with negative exponents, and good luck, and see you next time.